Before we step into today's story, take a moment to support this channel. Tap the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and stay connected so you never miss stories that linger long after the screen fades to black. The story you're about to hear doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It unfolds the way rain does, slowly, quietly, and with meaning hidden between moments. This is a story about stillness, about two people learning each other not through words, but through silence, and about how sometimes, when the world outside slows down, the heart finally catches up. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's begin. The rain arrived long before the morning truly woke. It didn't announce itself with thunder, or demand attention with heavy drops pounding the roof. Instead, it slipped into the world quietly, almost respectfully, thin streams tracing the edges of windows, soft droplets whispering against the ground. It felt patient, intentional, like it wasn't there to disturb anything, only to pause it. The house sat wrapped in gray light, shadows stretching gently across walls that had grown used to routine silence. Outside, the sky hung low and heavy, clouds pressed together like unspoken thoughts. Inside, time seemed unsure of how fast it was supposed to move. Michael stood by the window, one shoulder resting against the cool glass. His reflection stared back at him, blurred, broken into pieces by the rain sliding downward in uneven paths. He traced one droplet with his finger, watching it collide with another, then raced toward the sill as if escaping something unseen. For the first time in weeks, his chest didn't feel tight. There was something comforting about watching water fall without urgency. No expectations, no deadlines, just movement, and permission to move slowly. Earlier that morning, his father had left for a 3-day business trip. No long goodbye, no dramatic farewell, just a soft knock on Michael's door, a hand resting briefly on his shoulder, and a quiet reminder to behave. Then the door had closed. And with that sound, the house had changed. Michael and Clara were alone together now. She had been his stepmother for less than a year, long enough to learn schedules, routines, and polite distance, short enough that nothing had fully settled. Clara wasn't cruel. She wasn't cold. And she certainly wasn't the kind of stepmother stories warn you about. If anything, she was careful. Too careful. Every word she spoke felt measured. Every movement deliberate. Like she was afraid that one wrong step might crack something fragile beneath her feet. They lived parallel lives under the same roof. Shared meals. Shared hallways. Shared mornings filled with polite nods and quiet courtesy. But the space between them always remained untouched, thick with things neither of them knew how to say. Michael didn't dislike her. But liking someone and knowing them were two very different things. And that morning, with the rain thickening outside and the house unusually quiet, that distance felt louder than ever. By mid-morning, the rain had grown heavier. Not violent. Not angry. Just persistent. Wind curled around the house, slipping through unseen gaps, brushing tree branches together so they groaned softly like tired old bones. The sky pressed down, heavy and unmoving. Michael reached for his phone. No signal. The Wi-Fi icon flickered once, then disappeared. He sighed, letting the phone fall onto the couch. So much for distraction, he muttered. Moments later, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. Then darkness. Not complete darkness, but that strange stormlit half-light, where shadows stretch longer and familiar rooms feel unfamiliar. The house felt suspended between moments, caught somewhere between night and day. And then, laughter. Soft. Unexpected. Clara's laughter. Michael turned just as she appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs carefully in her hands. Steam curled upward, filling the dim room with warmth and the faint scent of cinnamon. "Looks like the universe decided we're stuck together today," she said gently, her voice lighter than usual. She handed him a mug. Their fingers brushed briefly. Neither of them mentioned it. "Thanks," Michael said, unsure why the simple gesture felt heavier than it should have. Clara settled across from him on the couch, pulling a blanket around her shoulders. Without the bright lights and practiced posture, she seemed different. Smaller. Softer. More real. The composed version of her, the one Michael was used to, had faded with the power outage. And in its place sat someone quietly human. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Rain filled the silence, tapping steadily against the windows, as if keeping time for something neither of them had rehearsed. I used to love days like this, Clara said finally, her eyes following the movement of water outside. When I was your age, I'd sit by the window for hours with a book. The world felt safer when it slowed down. Her voice wasn't careful this time. It was honest. Michael nodded slowly. I like the quiet too, he admitted. It makes everything feel less demanding. And just like that, something shifted. The silence between them didn't feel awkward anymore. It felt shared. Hours passed without either of them noticing. They talked about school, about favorite books, about things they'd never bothered to ask before. When Clara suggested watching a movie, Michael was surprised by how natural it felt to agree. With no internet, she dug through an old box of DVDs tucked away in a cabinet. She laughed softly at the faded covers. Your dad and I used to argue about movies all the time, she said. He loves chaos and explosions. I prefer stories that make you feel something. The kind that makes you cry? Michael teased. She smiled. Exactly. They chose a slow, atmospheric drama. Quiet scenes, long pauses, emotions hidden between glances. Halfway through, thunder cracked across the sky. The TV blinked off. They stared at the dark screen then laughed. Not nervous laughter. Shared laughter. Clara lit candles, their golden glow filling the room, softening the storm outside. Shadows danced gently along the walls as the rain continued its patient rhythm. And for the first time since she'd married his father, Michael felt like Clara wasn't an outsider sitting across from him. She was just a person. Trying.